Good morning. If you are getting something out of this content, feel free to like and subscribe. If you're interested in private coaching to help you set some goals to overcome some of this narcissistic abuse or trauma or PTSD, contact www.coachcat.org. What I'm going to talk about today is how the attachment trauma and attachment wound is for a narcissist compared to a codependent, and why they cannot handle abandonment at all. Like, it's worse for the narcissist than it is the codependent. So narcissists have really bad attachment trauma. So do codependents, but for narcissists, their experience of it is far worse. They've experienced horrible emotional neglect in their families. Often they had very perfectionistic parents. The child learned that they had to send a mask of perfection in order to gain approval from their parents. They may have been objectified by their parents, put on a pedestal as the perfect golden child. The parents may have said things like, "What's not to love about them?" which translates to, "As long as this child performs perfection, then I will give them approval." The child then creates a mask because they feel their true and perfect self will be rejected by this parent. The parent may have engaged in withholding, silent treatment, or emotional stonewalling if the child misbehaved. Thus, the child gets the message, "I must perform perfection in order to be safe in this family." Parents may have had a real emphasis on everything appearing perfect to the external world. These families are typically driven by secret shame, emotional abuse, and neglect. The families expect perfection, and if that is not performed, then there is withholding. The kids may be very high achievers in this family, but inside their emotional life is incredible emotional poverty. They are not accepted for being imperfect and human. No one in these families typically talks about feelings or emotions, and any expression of emotions is stifled and perhaps looked at with a great deal of disdain. So if the child becomes a narcissist, they're going to experience way more attachment trauma than a codependent. If you read Ross Rosenberg's book, it's so helpful and explains a lot of this, the human magnet syndrome. So if you came from a family with a pathological narcissistic parent and a codependent, there's a very good chance that you're going to either be a narcissist or a codependent. The narcissist attachment trauma is so bad that it actually gets repressed almost completely. The narcissist, it's relegated to the subconscious. They are unable to process it. They tend to disassociate. They relegate it to the part of the brain that's deeply repressed and unconscious. So they are not aware, not in any sort of real way, about this incredible attachment trauma. They typically, that's why you'll see them, they don't talk about their childhood. They don't have many memories of their childhood. If they have any at all, it's like a delusional version where it's painted as perfect. It's basically a highly distorted version of their childhood. If they actually tapped into what really happened to them as a child, their brains and minds cannot process it. The brain basically bottles it up, and that's why they don't remember the thoughts and the feelings of what happened to them when they were kids. They very much they disassociate. It's basically, if you think about it, it's too big for their psyche to manage. And they come up with a very false narrative about what happened to them. They tend to idolize their parents or the ones that hurt them, and they are walking around living in the state of repression and disassociation. And that's why psychotherapy has a very hard time working with them, because they cannot tap into the truth. They just can't. Core shame is a piece of both codependence and narcissism, but for the core shame for a codependent is really bad, but they can tap into it, get honest about what happened to them, and they can heal from it. And their experience of it is nowhere near as bad as the narcissist. The narcissist, and I'm not saying that they didn't have similar attachment trauma, I'm saying the experience for the narcissist, the way they experience attachment trauma is far worse than for the codependent. It's just too big for them to process. They cannot access their core shame. They can't go there. So what they do, the narcissist, is they project and blame it. They blame others and they project it onto others. They have incredible defense mechanisms to protect their very fragile egos. A narcissist lives in a complete world of denial. The codependent can access the core shame. They can remember what happened to them. They can process it in therapy. And this is one huge reason why it's much more likely that a codependent is going to heal. They can get out of the denial. But a narcissist can't. They use these defense mechanisms as, being very grandiose, entitled, and superior, and they cannot tap into their core shame. They blame others for their life, and they use strong defense mechanisms of incredible denial. The codependent won't deny it. They will reflect on it, they will do introspection, and they will get help. The narcissist will fall apart if they face the actual truth because their ego is too fragile to face this truth, right? They feel better. They feel more entitled than others, this is just all their defense mechanism. They cannot admit their problems. They cannot come up with any way to access the truth. The narcissist experience is a very deep pathological loneliness. So do codependents, but it's like half. It's nothing close to what the narcissist experiences. The existential pain for a narcissist is horrific. They feel empty inside, they feel a void, and even a codependent can't really relate. Like, a codependent does feel emptiness and sadness, but they are able to tap into their emotions, right? And into the truth. The void, the vast void of emptiness that a narcissist feels, this existential loneliness, is very profound. So the addiction to the codependent relationship is much more intense for the narcissist than it is for the codependent. You think if you're a codependent on here and you're experiencing withdrawals and pain, from what I've read, from what Ross Rosenberg talks about it, the withdrawal symptoms and the abandonment wounding for the narcissist is so much more profound than it is for the codependent, that they will do anything to avoid abandonment, which means they will replace this codependent with another codependent, or anyone. They'll replace it with anyone, so they don't have to actually experience that horror of abandonment that will be very profoundly painful and intense for them. So that's why they do the overlap in relationships, because they can't have it be about them. It has to be, they have to replace that supply with another source. That's why they need multiple sources, because they cannot handle the ego blow to any type of abandonment wounding. It's just too horrifically painful for them. So they use manipulation, abuse, gaslighting to keep people tied to them, right? These people, they cannot be alone. Narcissists cannot be alone. They really don't. They just can't handle it. Like, you will see them, and narcissists are in a lot of relationships, even though they're totally dysfunctional and they can't do healthy relationships, because they truly cannot be alone. So you will rarely ever see a narcissist take 2, 3, 4, 5 years off from a relationship. I'm right now, have taken 3 years as a single person. I've dated here and there, nothing serious, but I haven't gotten into another relationship because I am determined to heal my codependence and my abandonment wounding before I bring that to somebody else. And I do not want to be in a relationship with another narcissist or a toxic person. And so I'm doing a lot of work around healing that so that doesn't become an issue for me. And the times during this dating process in the last couple of years that I have encountered and been attracted to narcissists or people that have highly narcissistic traits, I have been able to set boundaries and exit those relationships as calmly as possible for my own well-being. So if a narcissist cannot get the codependent to stay with them, then they must destroy the codependent. That's why the divorces with them are so awful. That's why the breakups are so awful, because they must destroy, right? Because they can't have it be about them. They can't sit and go, maybe I had a part in this. Maybe I messed up. Maybe I should have been honest. Maybe I shouldn't have used manipulation to get my partner to stay, and gaslighting and cheating and lying and stonewalling and all these really passive aggressive behaviors to try to force somebody to stay with me. Maybe I should have just been honest and been myself and told the person what my needs were and tried to communicate like a normal adult. But they can't, because remember, they're toddlers that are trapped in their trauma. So they're not able to tap into any of this introspection or self-awareness or, do any sort of take any personal responsibility. They just can't. The more I read about narcissists, the more I feel sorry for them, honestly, because they're not living a real life. They're living a half fake life. It's not even real. So what would that be like? So as true that they don't experience, because their defense mechanisms are so strong, they don't experience, the kind of intense pain because they're all avoiding that, right? But they don't experience true joy. They don't experience true bonding. They don't experience emotional intimacy with other people. Like they live a very empty existence. It's actually really sad if you think about it. I mean, I'm not saying this so that you, as the codependent that's most likely on this channel, are going to slip on your compassion and start trying to fix them or make it better for them, or even change your course of action of radical self-care. That is not a healthy thing to do. You definitely do not and cannot fix the narcissist, and that is your delusion. If you think that you can fix a narcissist, you are in delusion. And I would suggest that you really look at that. Your love will not save them. You need to my opinion is you need to take all that energy that you were focusing on trying to fix and save somebody else and put it back on yourself and start to save and nurture your inner child. And you deal with your abandonment wounding. You get honest about what happened to you and get honest about how you developed codependency in order to survive your childhood, and it's no longer serving you. The people pleasing is no longer serving you. The saying yes to everyone and saying, instead of saying no when you need to learn how to put on your oxygen mask first when the plane's going down. Stop running around the plane and trying to put on everyone's oxygen mask for them while you are choking and dying. That is not healthy. Learn healthy boundaries. So I'm not suggesting that you slip on your compassion and you try to fix the narcissist. That is a monumental task that you are not equipped for. No one is. In fact, even the best psychotherapists in the world struggle with trying to find any sort of treatment for narcissists because their defense mechanisms are hella strong. The narcissist can't come to terms with who they are, what they did, so they have to project all of their stuff onto the codependent. They can't face it. They can't take personal responsibility. They're all about projection and deflection, and it's all about, protecting themselves from that existential core shame that is the driving force in their lives. They desperately and viciously will try to destroy the codependent that has the audacity to leave them because they cannot stand this horrible blow to their very, very fragile ego. And the attachment wounding is so profound that they will do anything to avoid it. They will get into another relationship. They will get another source of supply. They will get anyone to validate them and say, you're okay. Some external panacea, whether it be drugs, alcohol, porn, sex, another relationship, whatever. These people, tend to be in these dysfunctional relationships, and they're the people that will be in a relationship for 10 years. They'll act like everything is perfect. They will not communicate honestly. They will not do any sort of introspection or self-awareness. They won't go to therapy unless they're dragged by their partner, and even then they're just trying to manipulate the therapist and their partner. So these are not people that do any work on themselves. They cannot face it. And, their defense mechanism is, I don't need to do any work. It's everyone else's fault. It's not my fault. I'm perfect. Don't you know how special I am? I'm entitled. I'm grandiose. They're always trying to exploit others. Remember the 3 E's: exploitation, entitlement, and very low empathy. They can't tap into their empathy for other people. They have pity for themselves, but they don't have empathy for other people. So, with all of these things coupled, these people are deeply and profoundly disturbed individuals. They are very unwell. They're not well. And it is actually really sad if you think about it. Like I think it's really sad. I actually have a lot of compassion from a distance for narcissists, and I wish that there was some cure for them. I do think Sam Vaknin has something called cold therapy. I don't know much about it, but he has some remedies to help narcissists. And, on some level, I applaud him because he is I think he's diagnosed psychopathic narcissist, and he's doing all sorts of work to help survivors of narcissistic abuse to understand narcissism and to get help they need. And I think on some level that is it's such a pro-social thing that he's doing, that I wonder if it is helping to minimize his own narcissism. I don't know for sure, but it's just something that I find interesting. So, this is, if you as the codependent think you have it bad, which you do, the narcissist's existential pain is, I think, so much worse that they can't even live a real life. So, but you as a codependent can get help because you're here on this channel. You're trying to figure out what the heck happened to you. You're trying to get some healing. You're trying to do some self-reflection. You're doing some introspection. You're willing to go to therapy. You're willing to seek some help. And the cure, I think, for codependence, or one cure, is awareness and honesty and tapping into the truth of what happened, processing it, and really reparenting that inner child that was so abandoned and neglected, as a child. And I think that, as adults, we can go through our whole lives bumbling around in the dark, or we can wake up and we can look at what happened. We can come to terms with it. We can step into honesty. We can step into awareness, and we can get the help that we need. And we can learn how to manage our triggers. We can learn some really great somatic help for our bodies, and really do a lot of healing. I think mindfulness is very helpful. I've been surfing and just having, oh my gosh, I'm getting back into surfing and I'm just loving it. It's really helping my body to heal, and I've always loved climbing. So there's a lot of things I do physically, somatically, to heal my soul and my spirit. And I spend time in nature. And of course, by doing this to help you guys, it's helping me to heal. I really believe in meditation and prayer and tapping into a spiritual community. I'm very grateful that I'm surrounded by a spiritual community of loving, kind, empathetic people. And darn it, I love little codependents. I mean, there's some of my best friends in the world are codependents that are treating their codependents, and I love them. They're like the sweetest people, people pleasers. They're so sweet. But if this is helpful for you, I'm so happy, because that's the goal here. And if you want some private coaching, I'm not a therapist. I have personal experience. I've taken quite a few courses to help people overcome trauma. But what I can do is help to guide you as best I can, and help to coach you to sort of establish your own goals for healing. And I can share some of the remedies that have helped me. So I hope that you're having a wonderful day, and talk soon. Bye.